We're on page 50. We're talking about generosity.
Yeah, we're talking about generosity.
Generosity, it's an interesting thing. People are generous when they get something back from it. It's very rare to find people who are generous just because they want to be generous. But there are good people like that too. There's nothing wrong with giving and wanting something back, but there's a much higher level to be generous just for the sake of being generous. V'handivut, generosity, hi min hamidot haturmiot. It is one of the lofty traits. Umi matrot haTorah, it's one of the objectives of the Torah. Umin hatchunot hamiyuchasot lo yitalen, one of the character traits that is ascribed to Hashem. What does it mean ascribed to Hashem? The Rambam tells us that Hashem doesn't really have character traits. Hashem is not a being to which he could have character traits. But we, through perceiving Hashem's actions, we see that sometimes he's generous, sometimes he's calm, sometimes he's quick to anger. So we attribute all kinds of human emotions to Hashem, even though Hashem is not bound by those emotions. That's why he uses the word, it's ascribed to Hashem, but not necessarily really true about Hashem. כי הוא יתעלה הגדיר כתכונותיו את מה שרואים מנדיבותו וטובו, דהיינו חנון ורב חסד. Hashem describes himself as being gracious and kind, and that he does chesed. ובריאת עולמו היא עצמה מעשה חסד נדבה. The creation of the world is itself a chesed. The Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, the Derech Hashem says, why did Hashem create the world? What did Hashem get out of creating the world? We got life. What did Hashem get? And there are a few answers. Different Mekubalim give different answers. The Ramchal's answer is Kiteva hatov lehetiv. It's the nature of one who is good to want to do good. And therefore Hashem, who is good, so to speak, wanted an outlet to which he could do good. And in the most selfless act, Hashem creates a world in which he could do good for. K'mo shneimar, like it says in Tehillim, Amarti olam chesed yibaneh. I said that the world was built with kindness. V'tuvo undivuto chovkim olam umloo, k'mo shneimar, tov Adonai lakom. And Hashem is good to everyone. Not just the Jews, not just human beings, but also to animals, to insects, to all kinds of. Hashem is good to everything that he created. We're using a word called generosity. And the opposite of generosity is? Stinginess.
Generosity is very generous.
Stinginess is the correct word.
Right.
There's another term though that's stinginess could refer to stinginess regarding yourself, or stinginess regarding that. There are people who have a lot of money but they can't even spend it on themselves, and they'll never go buy new clothes, or they'll always eat what's left over. But that they could go, they won't do it.
They used to do that when they were poor.
Maybe they weren't. Maybe they just have a character. There are some people.
They want to eat differently, then they may become poor again.
There's a problem though. It's a problem when someone has and they're not able to spend on themselves. No, spend on somebody else. That takes it takes a selflessness. But spend on yourself. For what purpose do you have if not to spend on yourself? There are such people. Such people. It's raining and they're stuck in Times Square, Manhattan, and they won't buy an umbrella. Because an umbrella costs $12, they could get an extra house for $6. Come on, but you're getting wet meanwhile, and you're a millionaire. So what are you worried about spending $12? It's a matter of principle. This person is something is wrong with him.
Times Square gets cheaper.
It's important for you to understand the difference ben hanedivut, between generosity, she hipucha shel hakamtzanut, which is the opposite of stinginess, uven habizbuz, and between. He writes extravagance, but essentially that means wastefulness. Shehu hipucho shel hachisachon, which is the opposite of, he uses the word prudence, or a nature of one to want to save. Kebizbuz v'chisachon, extravagance and prudence, hem lema shetalui b'adam atzmo. Those are when you talk about a person and himself, the relationship he has with himself, that's when you could say either he's very extravagant, or he's very prude. הבזבוז מחייב שאחיו המבזבז בהוצאותיו ומלבושיו ומושבו וכדומה. Extravagance means a person will spend a lot of money on their clothing, on where they live, on the things they drive, on the food they eat. That's what they do. It's all about themselves. And a person like that who is very prude, this person says, no, I don't need to eat the fanciest foods, I don't need to live in the biggest house, I don't have to drive the most expensive car, I want to live a normal life. This person is choosing not to go down the path of wastefulness. Aval, bottom, page 52. Ha-nidivut, generosity, והקמצנות, and stinginess, הם דברים שבין אדם לחברו. This is something that has to do with a person and his fellow.
You take a tea? Okay. You want tea?
I have, thank you. הנדיבות מחייבת שייטיב הנדיב עם זולתו. Generosity causes one to be kind or abundant to someone else. והקמצנות מחייבתו שלא ייטיב עם זולתו. And stinginess means I won't do good to other people. It doesn't have anything to do with you, but to do with the people around you. You can have a person who splurges on for himself, but he won't give a penny to somebody else. So he could be generous and also prude or stingy at the same time, depending on who he's referring to. When the Torah says to be generous, the Torah is referring to is that a person should not spend lavishly only on themselves, but also for others. Meaning the Torah, when it says to be generous, it's not telling you to be generous to yourself, it's telling you to be generous to everyone else. Adrabah, quite to the contrary. If a person limits his own expenses, but is more generous with other people than he is with himself, the Torah will actually look kindly upon that. There's nothing wrong with that. He can, in two different situations, have two different character traits. One more stingy and one more generous, but depending if he's generous to other people but more stingy with himself, the Torah would actually be okay with it.
Page number, I'm sorry.
On page 52.
Selfish.
You know, Rabbi Telner, who was my rabbi in Baltimore, he was this kind of person. I don't know that he was stingy with himself necessarily, but he lived a very simple lifestyle. He lived in a simple apartment, old furniture. I remember his house. He drove always a used car, always. He would never buy a new car. But when it came to doing tzedakah, when it came to helping out other people, he was very generous. And you find that to be generous doesn't mean that also you on yourself have to be lavish, but at least for other people. It's a mistake. You find in this world a lot of people who are very wealthy, they'll spend thousands of dollars on themselves, and they will never give anything to tzedakah. They'll never give anything to Torah scholars, the poor people in the community. They can't. So you come to ask them for a donation for a school? Oh no, we don't have. They have 101 reasons why they won't give. But on your pair of shoes, you just spent $2,000. You're walking on a kid's scholarship. Understand? You're wearing a watch that could buy someone else a car. You go on a vacation that could buy someone else a home. Sometimes people are so.
It's a matter of priorities.
Absolutely.
Not straight. But at the same time, though, a person could go too far the other way. I'm sure the Rambam's son discusses this here, that you live as a pauper in sackcloth and give everything away is also not the answer.
Okay, so we're going to discuss also the limitations of tzedakah. There are limitations of generosity, absolutely. But as we mentioned in the previous chapter on compassion, when it comes to erring on the side of caution, the erring on the side of caution should be to be too generous, as opposed to be too stingy. That's the bottom line.
Got it.
And it's a musar. You know, there was a wealthy Jewish wedding that happened recently. Someone told me it was a few $1 million to put together this wedding. A few $1 million. And they had all kinds of rabbis that came. But what kind of Jewish community are we building if we tell a person that on 3 hours of their life they're allowed to spend millions of dollars? Well, he gives millions of dollars to yeshivas. That's true. I'm not taking away from his goodness, but Hashem demands from you also a modesty in action, a modesty in celebration, a modesty in every person. A wealthy Jew doesn't have a different Torah than a Jew who's not so wealthy. There's no lower class, middle class, upper class Torah. There's the same Torah for everyone. Hashem demands from everyone to be tzanua. Tsanua doesn't mean to cover your neck line. I don't know what the rules are. Your hair has to be in a ponytail. It also means the way you act. That's tzniut. The way you dress. There are colors that we're not allowed to wear. Rabbis don't talk about these things so much because it upsets people in the community. But to come into Bet Knesset and you're wearing these crazy, flashy colors and I don't know, Chazal were very against these things. That person should come, dress nice, look good.
I haven't seen too many people in bright, flashy colors. And
Like red, you said.
I see mostly black and white.
I would remember if Rabbi Halevy would come to yeshiva with a certain colored tie and he would ask us to go back and change it. So, what Shulchan Aruch says that I can't wear this color tie? It's not. It's a matter of, he would tell us, you want to wear brand name clothing?
So your pink tie is okay?
He would say
I like your pink tie.
He would say wear brand name clothes that have the logo hidden. Why does it have to have a crocodile in the front of your shirt? Or I don't know what the brand names are actually, but so why? You want to wear a fancy shirt, good, but why do you have to poke someone else's eye for it?
Hermit scarf.
And I once gave a class about
Jay
this, and someone really got upset that I said this. Our parents once told us, he has a question of people who buy, I shouldn't say, all kinds of fancy things in public, and what's the point of it? What's the point? He was talking about fancy cars. Someone buys a bright red sports car, convertible. So I understand you have money, but why does everyone else have to know about it? Where's tzniut?
Somebody brought new car.
So somebody said, I don't understand. Why can't I spend the money the way I want? So I tell you can't, but why do you? Why do you? This is an interesting thing. I know a person who was very wealthy, and at the end of his life, he lost everything that he had, to the point where I remember I once visited him in his home, and he had begun remodeling his home when he was wealthy. Until the day he died, everything in his house was half finished. I mean, instead of spending everything you made every single month, you could have done a little bit more modestly, to put away a little bit for a rainy day. Sometimes people, it's Kosh Baruch Hu demands from us tzniut, and sometimes tzniut is in our best interest.
That guy.
I'm not saying where. In our best interest to be at tzniut. Something to think about. To be generous doesn't mean to be extravagant. It's to be generous with other people and to live ourselves like a good human being.
Well, on one hand, a person has to. There's nothing wrong with a person living at a level that Hashem has granted him a nice home and a nice this and that. On the other hand, there are so many people who they're showing that they're better than everybody else or cooler, or it's like, look at me, I've got a red sports car. But at the same time, also, God forbid, the person's giving himself an ayin hara. Somebody could steal it, or envy the person, and envy is like an evil eye on somebody.
So I'm going to tell you the truth is I struggle internally with this. Because on one hand I do understand this. There's nothing wrong with a person living on the level Hashem lets them live. I don't know that that's true. There's a part of me that doesn't believe that's true. I tell you there's a struggle. I don't have a right answer. There's a part of me that doesn't believe it.
Isn't it a bit of,
There's a part of me that doesn't believe that a couple can live in a mansion with 16 bedrooms.
Oh, if they don't need it, it's ridiculous.
But they're very wealthy. This is the same thing as you living in a 2-bedroom house. It's not.
But they don't need the 16 bedrooms. We need the 2 bedrooms.
So something tells me that person.
Why should he drive an old Pontiac?
No house available here.
I didn't tell him he has to do that either.
No, but that would be considered tsunua according to some people. But that's kind of dishonest, isn't it? If you can have a car that fits your station, like something that runs well and is sturdy and is worth the price you paid for it, why should they have it?
I had a friend whose parents are very wealthy.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
And he didn't. His parents lived, you think, like normal, simple Jews, but they had a house, a lot of bedrooms, and there was not a given Shabbat where these bedrooms were empty. Always hosting people, they had to come from different neighborhoods, they had to come to a place always full of people staying there. I understand why they have a big home. I understand why they live in such a lifestyle. They're making use of it in a way that Hashem would want. I don't know. I can't tell people what to do. I struggle sometimes with this idea.
Well, it's an interesting. It's a matter of measure, a matter of propriety at the right time in the right place or something.
Everything about Bill Gates. Imagine if he said, "I'm going to live the most extravagant lifestyle." Yeah, let's give him however many years he has left his life. I'll make a calculation. He lives to 120. Okay. If he planned that every year he would spend a crazy amount of money, he would still have leftover money, right? Right. So what is he holding on to that money for? We know it's not going to go with him to the grave. So what's he doing with it?
He put in a foundation.
So I'm not talking about Bill Gates specifically. A person like Bill Gates, what does he do with it? Wouldn't it be better for him, for that Ploni Almoni who's wealthy, to say those extra $30 billion that I don't know what to do with? Maybe I'll build yeshivot out of it, I'll build public housing out of it, I'll build all kinds of things out of it.
Yes.
And then I'm investing my money into tzedakah, so it's not mine, I don't have it anymore.
Yes, given money.
I'm not talking about Bill Gates, you're getting stuck on an example.
People are like that too.
But people have to make a calculation. How much can I realistically spend? And then the rest of it, what am I doing with it?
When we look at a family like the Gettys, who kept their wealth, all their kids committed suicide or became drug addicts or had great misfortunes or lost all the money, which is interesting because they didn't learn how to use, they just were given it. If you just be given that much money or just to have the money lying around is actually a curse to a family.
There's a lot of musa on that. And working for what you have is different than just being born to it.
A lot of people like to have that curse.
Sure.
Have that curse.
Well,
Eli says, let me deal with that problem.
Sign up for that curse.
because people love you for your money, they don't love you for you. You know, they're marrying you for your money.
They say when people win the lottery, it's amazing how many relatives pop out of the woodwork that they never knew they had.
Well, they really heard that their lives really become miserable. All kinds of people say, why can't you give me this? Why can't you give me that? I was like, oh, Baruch Hashanah, what did you do for... Sometimes, what do I say? The more money you have, the more problems you have. It's not so simple. It's not always the best. Not asking anybody to be poor, but there seems to be a little bit of a spread the wealth mentality in the Torah of Judaism that if we believe in Hashem, that He gives us the money that we have, and that if I use it in the way that He wants me to use it, He will keep replenishing what I have. Meaning, the reason I'm afraid to give too much is because what happens if tomorrow I don't have any? But if I am aware truly that Hashem gave me this, and the best way to use it is not let it collect interest in the bank, but to give it to, or pass it on, or I'm not saying a handout, there's a way to use it in a way that's constructive to society, that's not just tzedakah, but it's a chesed.
Yeah.
In that situation, and I truly believe Hashem will replenish, because I'm using, why would Hashem not? Hashem can give this money to the people who need it directly. Hashem makes me His messenger. And if I live up to my job as messenger, Hashem will keep replenishing it for me. We are afraid to look at the world that way. And the reason is because we don't really believe in Hashem that much. We don't really believe that Hashem gave me... I mean, we say it, but will we put our money where our mouth is?
When once you start to understand that, then
Very
the
few people
opposite
do that.
becomes scary. Then it becomes, how do I... You have a certain fear, like, oh, maybe I'm not being a custodian of this wealth in the way that Hashem wants. Like, how
And
do you
then I
figure
might
out?
lose it
Collectors
because
come
of
to the
that.
door. Maybe they should get it. Maybe the synagogue should get, a second Torah. Maybe you don't know what's.
Well, we're lacking
spend it.
today those testers of people who have like the Yavel, the 50 year where you give land away, that you no longer have ownership on parcels of land. That was in the Prussia, and also, of course, the every 7-8 years leaving the field.
Reset buttons on
Yeah.
society. It's an interesting
and,
concept. But it requires a lot of emunah on Hashem.